Welcome, hackers. Today we're going to be building a character using the 2024 rules set and the D&D Beyond character builder. This isn't going to be a super optimized character, just a basic character so we can get a baseline for what they can do. If you want a super optimized build, check out Colby over at D4 D&D Deep Dive. He does a great job of optimizing builds, and I'll have a link in the description below. For our first video, you can see we're going to begin with the fighter. To me, that's always been the basic class. Whenever I have a new player that isn't sure what to do and is a little scared of spell casting, I always start off with the fighter. The fighter is basic enough that they can understand the concept without knowing anything else about it. So let's take a look at some of the settings that we have for this. I have just about everything activated, though we aren't going to be using most of it because we're sticking with the 2024 rules. You can see we usually go with milestone advancement type, and I'm just doing fixed hit points, though we usually roll. We always have our multi-class requirements turned off because that's ridiculous. So let's go ahead and move forward to the actual setup. Like I said, we're going to pick a fighter. We're going to add that class. Now we get some of the new features for the fighter. Core fighter traits. As a level 1 character, you gain all the traits in the core fighter traits table. Gain the fighter's level 1 features. Your primary abilities are strength and dexterity, D10 hit dice, strength and constitution saving throws. We're going to get some skill proficiencies, weapon proficiencies, armor training, and some starting equipment. So let's start off with skill proficiencies. You can always pick any skill proficiencies that you want. However, some fairly common ones that fighters will begin with would be something like perception, maybe survival, or intimidation, or athletics, depending on the kind of character you are wanting to make. We're just going to start off with perception and athletics, both very useful skills. And then next we get to pick a fighting style. So we're going to choose a fighting style feat. The rules allow us to pick archery, blind fighting, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, interception, protection, thrown weapon fighting, two weapon fighting, and unarmed fighting. I'm kind of picturing this more as your classic soldier with a sword and a shield. So we're going to try to pick a fighting style that would work well with that. I'm thinking dueling is a good option, as the fighting style says when you're holding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. So this allows us to have a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. And that technically meets the requirements of no other weapons, so I feel like this would give us +2 damage to all of our rolls. Seems pretty basic, but that's exactly what we're looking for. Then we will also get the second wind feature. You have a limited well of physical and mental stamina that you can draw on. As a bonus action, you can use it to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. You can use this feature twice. You regain 1 expended use whenever you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. When you reach certain fighter levels, you gain more uses of this feature, as shown in the second wind column on your fighter table. So this will allow our fighter to heal on an occasion. Next, we have weapon mastery. This is where we get to choose which weapons our fighter has mastered. Your training with weapons allows you to use the mastery property of 3 kinds of simple or martial weapons of your choice. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice weapon drills and change the weapon of your choice. When you reach a certain fighter level, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons. Okay, so we mentioned we picture him as a sword and shield fighter, so let's just go give him a long sword, which gives us the sap option. Then we're going to pick a ranged option as well. So for the ranged option, how about a spear? Now see, we've picked 2 weapons that have the same ability. I think I'm actually going to switch that out. The same weapon mastery. I'm going to switch that out, and how about we go with the longbow instead? So the long sword allows us, if we hit a creature with a long sword, that creature has disadvantage on its next roll before the start of my next turn. And the longbow, anybody we hit with it, we can reduce their speed by 10 until the start of our next turn. Then we get one more option, and maybe we'll pick a smaller light weapon. Something like, say, just a dagger. And the dagger gives us the nick property. When you make the extra attack of the light property, you can make it as part of the attack action instead of a bonus action. This dagger can be used as a melee weapon or a ranged weapon because it can be thrown. So it gives us some good versatility there. So now we have to go and we have to pick our background. A fairly common background, again, would be something like soldier. Soldier, you begin training for war as soon as you reach adulthood and carry precious few memories of life before you took up arms. Battle is in your blood. Sometimes you catch yourself reflexively performing the basic fighting exercises you learned first. Eventually, you put that training to use on the battlefield, protecting the realm by waging war. This gives us intimidation as a skill, along with one more of our choice. I think from this list, I will simply pick, let's say, survival. Tool proficiencies, we can pick any gaming set. Let's get a little 3-dragon anti-set. We get the savage attacker feat. You are trained to deal particularly damaging strikes once per turn. When you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. This will allow us once every turn to essentially roll damage with advantage, perhaps raising our damage a little bit every round. And next we get the ability scores. We have two options. We can raise strength, dexterity, and constitution with this background, and we can either raise each of them 1 or 2 of them 1 by 2 and 1 by 1. I think I'm going to go with the increased 2 scores by 2 and 1. We're going to raise our strength, since we're primarily going to be swinging a sword and wearing armor, by 2. And we will raise our dexterity or constitution. This becomes more difficult. I think I'm going to go with constitution for the extra hit points. While we do have a bow and a dagger that would use dexterity, we are going to be more focused on our sword wielding. So we're going to want some extra hit points to go along with that. So we want to raise our constitution score there. Character details are all things you can flesh out on your character, but for this particular video is not necessary. Next, we get to pick our species. The origin species from the Player's 2024 Handbook. We can pick any of them that we want. I think for a nice big stout fighter, why don't we go with something basic like dwarf? The dwarf is medium, has a speed of 30, dark vision up to 120 feet. They have resistance to poison damage and advantaged saving throws. Toughness, their hit point maximum increases by 1 and increases by 1 again when you gain another level. This will again make us tough. Stone cunning, we can give ourselves tremor sense a certain amount of times a day. And we get 2 languages. The 2 languages we will pick will be Orc and Draconic, because why not? It's not relevant to any specific game or campaign, so that kind of is just up to your choice. Next, we get the ability scores. We are going to go with the point buy system. I find that this is a fairly common one for a lot of tables. So we're going to max out our strength, and we will max out our constitution as well. We are going to take our dexterity up a bit, but before we do that, let's see what happens when we take some of these others up, what we have left over. So if we took our intelligence, wisdom, and charisma all up to 10, then that allows us only 3 points to raise our dexterity without giving a minus to any of our other options, which only gives us an 11 on dexterity. I think I'm going to take my charisma back down to an 8. This will allow me to get up to a 13 on my dexterity, which sets our starting strength at 17 thanks to our background, our dexterity at 13, and our constitution at 16 thanks to our background. Now we move on to starting equipment. We will begin with, this one has a great sword and a flail, javelins. None of those are our weapons, but that seems more in line with what we want. Let's start off with just the cash so that we can pick the equipment we want. Same with this one. It doesn't have any of the equipment we want. So we are going to just select cash. Now that we've loaded up on cash, let's go take a look at some of the stuff we can purchase. Breastplate, 400 gold. Way out of our price range. I think we're going to need to start with chainmail or a chain shirt. Chainmail is 75 gold, gives us 16. Chain shirts only gives us a 13 AC. We're going to go ahead and buy the chainmail. Okay, so now we're going to go to, let's look and grab a shield. And then weapons. We will grab each of the weapons that we are going to be wielding. We'll grab a long sword. And we'll grab a dagger. And we will grab a, what was the other item? Was it the longbow? Okay, grab each of those. And we will wear each of them. And now we can go view the character sheet. So now here is our level 1 Dwarven Fighter, named Fighter Build 2024. We start off with 14 hit points. That is outstanding. Our dagger is our, oh, well, we can use strength for that too. Our longsword will be our main weapon, and we are +5 to hit with it already at this level. And we can, when using the mastery property, whenever we hit anybody with it, they'll have disadvantage on their next attack roll. You can double up on this a little bit if you hit 2 different people on your turn once you get multi-attack, and then you can give 2 people disadvantage on their first attacks. But our damage at this point is going to be 1d8 +5. So the damage with our longsword, which we get 1 attack per round at first level, is 1d8 +5. The +5 comes from our strength and from our fighting style of dueling. And we begin with a solid armor class of 18. That's a very good armor class at level 1. So now let's go back and manage our character and take some more levels. We're going to jump forward to level 5 now. We'll discuss each of the choices we get along the way. At second level, we'll get Action Surge. You can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take 1 additional action, except the magic action. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So this allows you to make an extra attack or anything else you want to do with your action once per short rest. You also get Tactical Mind. You have a mind for tactics on and off the battlefield. When you fail an ability check, you can expend a use of your second wind to push yourself towards success. Rather than regaining hit points, you roll a d10 and add the number to the roll of the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. If the check still fails, this uses the if the check still fails, this use of second wind is not expended. So that's nice. If you try to use it to get a benefit and it doesn't work, you don't lose it. Then at third level, we're going to get our fighter subclass. We're going to pick champion because, again, this is the most basic of subclasses as far as I can tell, with the least amount of complexity, making it the easiest for a new player to play. You get improved critical, so your critical hit range goes up from 20 to 19 to 20. So now you have twice as many chances to have a critical strike, which will increase your damage. At third level, you also get Remarkable Athlete. Thanks to your athleticism, you have advantage on initiative rolls and strength athletic checks. So this is giving you advantage on initiative and strength athletic checks is pretty big. Initiative is important. Going early in combat is better than going later. In addition, immediately after you score a critical hit, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So that's handy. Going earlier in combat allows you to position yourself favorably on the battlefield and getting some extra movement if you do score a critical hit, which you are twice as likely to do as the rest of the players. Then at level 4, we get an ability score improvement. we can choose a feat. So let's take a look at what feats are available, and then we'll decide which one that we want. I think the one that I want to take is going to be Shield Master. Shield Master will give us a +1 to our strength score. This will give us a better chance to hit and more damage. It also gives us the Shield Bash ability. If you attack a creature within 5 feet of you as part of the attack action and hit with a melee weapon, you can immediately bash the target with your shield if it's equipped, forcing the target to make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, you either push the target 5 feet or you cause it to have the prone condition. You can use this benefit only once on each of your turns. You can also interpose shield if you are subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage. You can take a reaction to take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and are holding a shield. So the Shield Bash allows us to knock a target prone, which would then give us advantage, or push it away from us so we can help position it more favorably on the battlefield. We can also use the Interpose Shield ability to further increase our survivability. And then at 5, we get extra attack. You can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action. And Tactical Shift. Whenever you activate your second wind with a bonus action, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Again, allowing us to maneuver around the battlefield to the most advantageous position. So now let's take a look at what it looks like on the character sheet and what we would be able to do in combat. As you can see here, our strength is now up to 18, giving us a +4 bonus. This takes us up to a +7 on our attack roll, as our proficiency bonus that also adds into that has gone up. We now get 2 attacks per round using our longsword, which does 1d8 +6 each. Each of those attacks on average will give us 10 points of damage. Each round, we can also knock an opponent prone, potentially giving us advantage on the second attack, using our Shield Bash ability. And with having an improved critical range from Champion, and then still also having advantage, which means every attack would have almost a 20% chance to critical, giving us a critical strike far more frequently than other players, potentially multiple per combat. On a critical strike, we get twice as many damage dice, and with a D8 damage die, that would give us an average of 15 damage instead of just 10 on that attack roll. We have 3 uses of Second Wind, allowing us to heal ourselves frequently, and Tactical Shift allows us to maneuver around the battlefield easily without provoking opportunity attacks. Once per short rest, we can use our Action Surge to get a whole nother round of attacks. In a combat round where we are not using our Action Surge, we can expect to do between 15 to 20 points of damage per round, and with an action surge, perhaps as much as 30 or 40 points. This is all while having a fantastic armor class and a ton of hit points. The survivability of the fighter is very high, while the damage output makes them a constant threat to the opponent. Now we're going to move up to level 11 when the fighter gets its next really big boost. First of all, at level 6, we get another ability score improvement. Fighters get more ability score improvements than other classes do. Other classes get ability score improvements at every 4 levels. Fighters get a few extra along the way. At this level, we're simply going to take the ability score improvement to get us a strength score of 20. This will take our bonus up to +5. That will help with our damage as well as with our chance to hit. At level 7, we get another fighting style. We will take, let's say, defense. Defense is a good one. While we're wearing heavy, medium, or light armor, it'll give us a bonus to our armor class of +1. If at this level we're still just wearing chainmail, it'll give us an additional bonus to our armor class, bringing it up to a 19. However, it's entirely feasible that by this point in an adventurer's career, they've found or received enough money to purchase better armor than what we began with. So you could have an armor class well into the low 20s by this point. Now let's take a look at level 8. We're going to get another ability score or a feat. With our level 8 ability score increase, we're going to choose the feat Sentinel. This allows us to increase our strength or dexterity by 1. We will pick dexterity as we've already raised our strength to 20. Immediately after a creature within 5 feet of you takes the disengage action or hits a target other than you with an attack, you can make an opportunity attack against that creature. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the current turn. This allows us to help protect our allies while doing extra damage potentially along the way. At level 9, we get Tactical Master. When you attack with a weapon whose mastery property you can use, you can replace that property with the push, sap, or slow property for that attack. This allows us to use these additional weapon mastery abilities without even having them on the weapon. At level 9, we get Indomitable. If you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level, which at this point is 9. You must use the new roll, and you can use this feature. You can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. You can use this feature twice before a long rest, starting at level 13, and 3 times before a long rest, starting at 17. This makes us even more survivable, as whenever we fail a saving throw that could potentially be a large amount of damage or a very debilitating effect, like stunned, for example, would allow us to reroll with a huge bonus, making it very difficult to make any effects stick to the fighter. We get another weapon mastery of our choice. We don't particularly need anything, so you can pick anything that you want at this point. Perhaps pick something that has a property that you like. The Vex property is pretty good, as it allows you to have advantage on your next attack roll against the opponent that you hit. This might be another good ranged option outside of the dagger or the longbow. Then at level 10, we also get Heroic Warrior. Thrill of battle drives you toward victory. During combat, you can give yourself Heroic Inspiration whenever you start your turn without it. Heroic Inspiration is a very useful resource that will allow you to reroll dice when you fail. And then finally, at level 11, 2 extra attacks. You can attack 3 times instead of once when you take the attack action. So now let's go take a look at our damage output now that we are level 11. We've had a couple of good bumps here. We've taken our strength to 20, giving us a +5 bonus. Our proficiency bonus is a 4 now, giving us a +9 to attack with our longsword here, doing 1d8 +7 damage per hit every time we attack. Every time we attack, we can take 3 attacks, although this says attacks per action 2. That is incorrect and a small bug in the program. But we have 3 attacks, and with a +9 to hit, and being able to knock our opponents prone with our shield bash ability occasionally, giving us advantage, we should have a lot of opportunities to land all of our attacks in a round. If we landed all 3 of our attacks, we would be looking at, on average, about 34 points of damage per round. If we chose the action surge and hit with many of our attacks again, that could take us as high as around 70 points of damage per round. That's not taking into account any critical strikes we may hit with, which is highly likely due to having advantage on a lot of our attacks against our prone opponent, and the fact that we have a much higher critical range. On top of that, we have a fantastic armor class, as well as a ton of hit points, making us very, very survivable. So we can do a lot of damage, we can protect our allies, and we can survive a lot of punishment as well. If I were building a basic fighter, and I wanted to advise someone else that's new to the game how to build a very basic fighter that's easy to play, but has a lot of versatility on the battlefield, this is what I would suggest to them as the easiest way to get started. Now, of course, there's a lot of ways to build fighters. You can make a fighter that's primarily focused on ranged attacks with a bow. You can make a fighter that swings giant swords or giant mauls. You can also make a fighter that fights with 2 weapons at the same time. All of these are easy to do and not that much more difficult to run than just your classic sword and shield kind of fighter. If you found this video interesting or helpful at all, I would love it if you would like and subscribe and help me reach more people. And if you're just starting out, Make sure you come back to the channel so you can learn more about building characters and about how to play the game. And if you're a first-time dungeon master just getting started on this edition, we have a lot of videos on how to build your dungeons as well. So until the next time, keep on hacking the dungeon.